Now we're going to be taking a look at some of the basics of object animation and some of the other different types of animation that's available within View. And I'm going to go ahead and hit F11 on the keyboard to pull up our timeline. And now if the animation wizard popped up, we can just go ahead and close that out because we're not going to be covering the animation wizard because it's pretty much straightforward and really doesn't need a lot of explanation. First thing I'm going to do is load in an object. So I'm going to go to File and Load. And I'm just going to load in one of our airplanes from our content CD. And any one of them will do. I'm going to select our first one, just click OK. And now what we can do is just move this airplane back a little on our x-axis, and we're just going to create a very simple animation using some of the features that are available for this object to create an airplane animation. So I'm going to drag our timeline over to about 5 seconds and now move our airplane over. And now we have a very, very basic animation where we just have our airplane flying across the screen on the x-axis for just 5 seconds. Well, now what I'm going to do is go up to our top right tab, our animation tab for this object, and under motion, it's set to basic right now just because we've created a very basic animation. But I'm going to go ahead and change this to airplane. You can see that we have a lot of different options available, and these really depend on what it is that you're animating. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the airplane. Because we are using an airplane object, and it'll be the best way to really determine and see exactly what this is going to do. Okay, so we just have still our basic animation, but as we move our object around, you will see that we have some extra features. So I'm going to move our airplane off to the side a little, and in the main camera view, we can already see that this object is tilting. And what that's doing is using our airplane animation as our motion to automatically bend and change our position of our object so that we have a very, very nice looking airplane animation. And it's all pretty much automatic. So we'll select our object again. And if we go ahead and edit this motion once again, maybe a little bit off to the side, you'll see that we bend the other way. And it depends on the sharpness of your turns, and it will create a very realistic animation for our airplane of how it would actually move in real life. So we can see all of those different blends as it's going through our curve. And we can see we just have a very, very basic animation. Now, if your airplane is not pointing the correct direction, depending on how it was originally created, we can change its main axis. So in other words, in which direction should it be facing? So we can change this so it's going backwards in case our object is facing the other way when we originally start. And then we also have all these different axes. So if it's not facing the right direction, what I would suggest doing is just changing the axes until it is correct. But I'm going to stick with the plus X right now, because by default this is facing on the x-axis, and that is the animation that we are creating is on the x-axis. So let's go ahead and take a look at a different type of object now. I'm going to just go ahead and delete this airplane, and we can load in a tank this time. We're going to use a ground vehicle. I'm just going to load in a tank. You can use a car or any of these ground vehicles. They'll all demonstrate exactly what I'm trying to show you in this technique. So I'm just going to pull this back just a little. And now I'm going to add a standard terrain, make it just a little bit larger in our scene. And then I also want to squish it down just a little. And we're going to have this tank moving over our terrain. So I'm going to drop our object, our tank, so that it's right on the ground plane. And now I'm going to change this back to our move gizmo. And we are going to move our animation to 6 seconds and just move that across. And now we can't really tell what it's actually doing at first. It doesn't really look like it's doing anything, and that's because our motion is still set to basic. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to automobile, and it's automatically going to detect how it needs to be moving up and down on this terrain. And if we zoom in, we can actually see our motion path reflecting our terrain's geometry. So it'll move over our terrain perfectly. But we can also see that it's facing the wrong direction now, and that's because it's on the wrong axis. So I can change this to the positive Y, and now it is facing the correct direction, and we have this tank moving over our terrain. Very, very cool. And of course, this works with all different sorts of objects, and you can go ahead and give it a try for all different types of things. And we also have this synchronized option on the bottom, which will allow us to synchronize to other major software programs like Lightwave and Maya. And there's a synchronization plugin located on the View CD-ROM. So you'll be able to just load that into your program, and then you can sync your cameras and lights to your main application. It's very, very easy for compositing that way.